That's right, something was missing from the European solo tour. My name's Tom Butwin. Once again, this is Everything Mayer, and we're going to talk about something that was glaringly missing from the European leg of the John Mayer solo tour. But before we do that, if you want to help support the show, please, of course, like, comment, subscribe. That helps, and it is free. But if you want to go a step further, I do have 2 levels of membership, and you can join the channel using the join button below. But let's talk about what was missing on this tour. And what was missing were new songs. If you remember back to the North American legs of the solo tour, we got lots of unreleased, new, sometimes completely unfinished music that John Mayer was giving to us, in addition to the really fun sign requests and kind of off-the-cuff things where he was pulling from his entire catalog. So I have a couple theories as to why this is the case. Now, of course, these are just theories. I have no actual information to tell me why this happened on the European solo tour, but I think there's a few things that are probably at play here. So number one, and of course, if you disagree, let me know in the comments. If I missed something, you think it's something else I don't cover, let me know there as well. But number one, I think the reason why we didn't hear songs like Drifting, In the Neighborhood, Why Anyone Has to Go is because he doesn't make it to Europe very often. And it really doesn't make it out of North America very often. So when you go to a place, and now he's doing a show in France, for example, where he's never been before, and he said as much that he feels like he's making up for a lot of lost time. And there are finite number of minutes in each one of these shows, and that means a finite number of songs that he can play. So to give up a spot, give up a Slow Dancing in a Burning Room or Gravity or Age of Worry or Wall Grace or Edge of Desire, or any of the songs that he'd be normally playing from his catalog for a song like Drifting, In the Neighborhood, or Why Anyone Has to Go is kind of a big deal. And I could see him thinking, I can't do that because I don't come and play for these people very often, and they want to hear certain things from my catalog. It's not new song time, which generally, even in an arena full of 20,000 people who love your music, you're going to lose people when you do that, which is crazy to me because, all of us here watching, listening, Everything Mayer, I would assume we are to the point where anything he plays, we're into, or at least going to give it a chance. But that's not the case for everybody. Most people who go to a concert, most people who listen to an artist don't dive so deep that they end up in someone's studio on YouTube talking about their favorite artist. So that being said, I think that is one of probably the most likely reason why we didn't see those on this tour. Now, the second one is where I'm starting to get creative and maybe trying to dive into the mind of the artist. And again, don't know how accurate this is. However, I do think it's possible because we do know new music is on the way. We know that recordings are being made. I would assume that he's working in the studio here and there. And I would say a new type of release, whether it's a single EP or record, is imminent in the next 1 to 2 years. Maybe he started to record these songs, or he finished road testing them the times that he did and said, you know what? They didn't feel right in front of an audience. Didn't like them. They were fine. They were good songs, but maybe he said, I don't think so. These are just not hitting the mark. And maybe that's why he just said, I'm not bringing anything else out on this tour. Go back to reason number one. I can't afford to bring out 3 new songs that weren't even, because arguably Drifting, In the Neighborhood, and Why Anyone Has to Go, you could have people in Europe who are waiting to hear those songs, which I think is likely the case. Let me know in the comments. Because they have been out there and we've been watching bootlegs, and people have been covering them. So they're not exactly new. They are new, but if you've been paying attention, you would have possibly been excited to hear one of those. So maybe those 3 songs, he said, they're not hitting the mark. He writes tons of music, and most of which we don't hear. So maybe they fell down that rabbit hole of songs that were almost there, almost good enough, but just weren't. So it's possible. It's possible. Look at a song like Over and Over that I mean, that could have been like an Ed Sheeran level hit had that come out with a Continuum, but he chose not to go that route because he didn't want to get stuck in that mega hit first dance wedding song kind of thing, that Your Body is a Wonderland and Daughters over and over could put you in. Now, not to say that you're going to be choosing 2 of those 3 songs for your first dance at a wedding, but you get what I'm saying. So that's what I'm thinking is going on here. I'm thinking it's one of those 2 things, or it's a combination of both. So please let me know in the comments what you think as to why something was missing on this tour. And it was the presence of new music, which, again, I think is fine. I'm not super disappointed about it. And what's funny is I actually didn't even notice until one of you commented and said, hey, how come there were no new songs on this tour? Brendan, I think your name was. Thank you for commenting that. And I was like, he didn't play any new songs. That's really interesting. So I didn't even notice. Now, I didn't get to go to any of the shows. Maybe I would have noticed had I gone to the show. I don't know. But they weren't like greatest hits shows by any means. But they didn't, and he took lots of chances. So it wasn't like he was just playing it safe every night. Lots of chances were taken, but they just were all encompassed by his released back catalog. He wasn't digging too deep into more recent things, or not so recent things that had not been finished or not released. So that's my thought. This is Everything Mayer, and I will see you in the next one.